In retrospect, I look back now and I think it was just another stepping stone. I don't know about everyone listening, but I'm guessing that whatever you started doing, maybe you started freelancing or entrepreneurial journey, and what you're doing now probably looks different. And so when I look back on it,
Yeah.
I just think of it as like part of the evolution and,
Mhm.
part of the stepping stone and the experience that you get as you, grow and learn as a business owner. I do kind of see it as a fail as far as a revenue generating
Mhm.
project, but it doesn't feel like a fail overall, if that makes sense.
Hey everyone, welcome to Your First Digital Product, a show that helps maxed out service providers create their first digital product so they can gain an additional income stream, grow their impact without increasing one-on-one work, and experience more time freedom. On the show, I talk to business owners who have launched digital products and dig deep into how you can create, launch, and market your first digital product. I'm your host, Renee Morozowicz. Let's go. Hey, Raina, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm excited you're here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself before we dive into your first product?
Oh, sure. I like to work with business owners who just want to have a happy, healthy life that their business fits into, which I think is usually the goal when you start a business. And I live in France. That's kind of a whole other story. We moved here last year. My husband, my 11-year-old daughter, and our cat, Grits.
Oh, I
I
didn't know the cat was there. That's
Oh,
awesome.
yes, he came with us. And he was born in a junkyard. Now he's a French cat. He's come a long way in life.
Aw. That's like a Disney movie, right?
No. He got a French passport before anybody else in this house.
Oh my
And
goodness.
fun fact, I have seen every episode of The Office more than once. So,
Nice. I can't watch it. Because I work there, not obviously not at that company, not at that fictitious company, but I've worked at so many places like that like after a while I was like, I just can't.
it's like
Like I,
post-traumatic
oh,
stress when you watch it.
it's too, I'm too sensitive.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, that actually happened. It's like Dilbert. Like Dilbert,
Yeah.
I don't know if you
I
remember Dilbert, like the
do.
cartoon strip
I
from like
do.
the whatever,
I'm the
but like,
daughter of an
yeah, it's like,
engineer. He
oh, that's
loved that cartoon.
so yes. They love engineers love that. Yes, I worked at a semiconductor factory and yeah, all the engineers are like, this is exactly it.
They felt
It hits
heard,
too
felt
close to home.
understood.
Yes. Too real. But I mean, it's a great show and like the cast is amazing. So I wish I could like it, but
No, I get it. I
yeah.
get it.
Anyway. Awesome. Okay, so let's talk about your first product. Well, tell us like what it was and like, kind of like the business around it and why you created it. I don't know, just kind of launch in there and then I will ask more questions.
Absolutely. Yes. So I want to just say up front, this is going to be a fail story, which I think can be really valuable. We
I
talked
think
about
so
it the
too.
first
Yeah.
time when I
Yeah.
found out what you did, and we kind of
Hmm.
laughed about it. So that's partly why we're here. So my
Yeah. People don't want to come on and tell their stories, but like I think it's so
it is.
important. Because really like there are people out there who like this has happened to. Like, and I think we need to normalize that not
Oh,
everybody's going to sell 1 billion copies of their first product, like
hello.
in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, let's just kind of,
Yeah.
yeah, let's set the
Totally.
expectations differently.
Totally. So my history is in healthcare. I worked for 17 years as a critical care nurse, stayed home with my daughter for a couple of years, and then I started to do online community management. I had done a lot of real life community organization. And so those skills actually sort of transferred on into the online world. So I was working for entrepreneurs who were running entrepreneurial memberships for people.
Mm.
And, with engagement and, managing members and things like that. And I was pulling together masterminds in these organizations. So are you familiar with masterminds?
Yeah, I am. I love masterminds, but tell the audience just
Yeah,
in case they're
for
not
sure.
familiar.
So basically, it's usually a small group, usually somewhere between, say, 4 to 7 people that come together to help each other troubleshoot, challenge, encourage, brainstorm through business ideas, issues, challenges, all those things. So it's basically like a small group, and you rotate through being on something most people call it the hot seat. But it's really where you get to kind of bring your like challenges, the things that you're thinking through in your business to another group of entrepreneurs who will then kind of be a group brain with you to help you think through. And as I was pairing these mastermind groups up with people that I thought would be complementary or had, similar businesses, but different enough that I felt like they could help learn from each other and inspire each other. And it was just going so well. People loved it. It was one of their favorite things in the memberships that I was managing. And I was just so inspired. I thought everyone should have a mastermind group, especially solopreneurs, right? Because, you can be isolating, to not have people to get ideas from and inspiration and encouragement and challenge you sometimes when you're kind of stuck in a rut, like all those things.
And talk you down.
Yes.
Like, hey, I'm thinking of doing this thing. And everybody's like, no. Or like, hey, I'm thinking of, should I raise my prices? Yes.
Right. Yes.
You need that.
You do. And I mean, often I think when people, especially, this changes once if your business grows and you start to have employees and other people who maybe can be, more in that role. But especially when you're a solopreneur or freelancer, I think this is super helpful. So when I started to think about this, I thought a lot of people weren't sure how to do this outside of like these memberships or organizations I was in. And I thought, well, it's not that hard. People can pull things together. They just need a little structure about what to look for in pairing up a group and some formats to get them rolling and a little structure and some how to make a successful group. That felt pretty straightforward to me. I'm like, I know people love this and I can help them figure it out, even if they're not in one of these organizations. And so I set to work. I actually hired a graphic designer who, looking back now, she actually wasn't that expensive, but it was super early in my entrepreneurial freelancing career. And so it felt like a ton of money. I think I paid her maybe it was like $795. Now, as I'm thinking about it, I actually remember the specific number to help me design because it was so, I just had no idea about, at that point, I'm not even sure I knew how to use Canva or what it was. So I paid her to help me put it together. She did a fantastic job. And then I had this thing. And one of the entrepreneurs that I worked with said, who are you going to sell that to? And I was like really frustrated when he asked me that because I thought, that's not very encouraging,
Yeah, this is something that people want.
Right, right. And this person had always been like a huge supporter. But here was the reality. I was actually freelancing for other people in other people's businesses at that point. I did not have my own audience. I did not have my own platform in any way, shape, or form. I don't even remember. Maybe I had an email list and maybe there was like 10 people on it, right, at that point. Because, honestly, I hadn't needed that. I had been freelancing, for others and was really happy at that point doing that. But it also meant there was like no connections there with someone to actually offer this to.
Often we talk about, who you're selling to as service providers, but I've never really addressed if you're doing a lot of subcontracting work. So that's great. Good point. I will need to circle back to that and talk to my audience about that because, that's a big thing. Like, if you don't have your own direct clients, you're working for someone else. You don't have that audience. You don't have that build out email list. Yeah, definitely. So excellent.
Yeah. And so I still feel pretty confident. I'll be honest with you. I was like, people need this. So then I finished building out my website because at this point I realized I need my own platform, right? I had been working just through word of mouth. One entrepreneur that I was helping would say, oh yeah, use Raina. She's great with communities. So I started building my website and then I hired a copywriter to create like an email sequence with, I had a freebie that would help you figure out who to ask to be in your mastermind. And then I had an email welcome sequence that I had written also by a brilliant copywriter. Her name's Liz Wilcox, shout out, because she has like a really low cost email marketing membership now that is awesome and costs like $9 a month.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, I know it's great and it's super helpful. So total side note, but she actually doesn't even do copywriting for people anymore, specifically like one-on-one. So I had her write me a great welcome sequence that was all ready. And then I put it out in the world,
Mhm.
and I bet you can guess what happened, which was 0 sales. No
Yes.
one found that.
So at the end of the welcome sequence, that was selling the product,
Right.
right? Like, is
Yeah.
that it warmed them up? Okay.
Yes,
Okay. So I mean,
exactly.
that's good. I mean, that's more than a lot of people have, like a freebie that leads into that. So how did you advertise, I guess, or how did you market the freebie specifically? Was it just on the website? Like, was it SEO? Like, yeah, let's talk about like the actual launch. Did you tell anybody? Like, did you tell like LinkedIn? Did you email your list? Like,
Yeah, I'm
did you tell your
laughing
friends?
because
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
retrospect, it's like, well, this was obvious, right? And exactly, I think one time I heard, I think you told me one time there's this idea of whispering from the rooftops.
Yeah, whispering from the rooftops, like,
Yeah,
and, like, that's it, like, one time, and you're like, "Well, nobody heard that."
right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, first of all, just to be like perfectly honest, I was super uncomfortable at that point, I think, with marketing something for myself because, again, I had been working in other people's businesses. I was usually promoting their things. I loved all the entrepreneurs that I worked for. So that always felt really easy and, easier in a way if you haven't done a lot of like, frankly, self promotion and marketing of yourself
Mhm.
before you have your own business. It's like a learned skill. And
It
not one
is.
that I had at that point, right? So, I felt like I had this thing out in the world. It was up on my website. I had the opt-in. So then I thought, okay, and it did occur to me like, gosh, I've got to start building my own, audience. I've got to start getting in front of people.
Mhm.
So I started blogging, but with
Nice.
no SEO, no, right? Like I'm just gonna,
Yeah,
you know,
well, I mean, it's a good start. You have to start somewhere, so
yeah,
blogging, yes, good start, and then, like, after you're blogging, then maybe you learn SEO, but yes.
right.
I mean, it's good. I think you're doing good.
Okay, yeah. So as that started, and then there was, gosh, let's see, I took a couple of courses and I just saw these groups that I thought it would be super helpful for. And so it was a group that I was in personally. And so I just offered it up as something that might be useful. Several people did it, organized themselves into masterminds. It was super satisfying to see people actually using it, even if I didn't get paid for it.
Mhm.
And then as I started to be involved in other things like that, other groups, I was coaching also. And so at some point here during this time, I started to take a few coaching clients and I just started giving it away, frankly,
Mhm.
because I think I felt it felt daunting to sell it, especially since I just felt really daunted with like how to really get it out there to people. And I was frustrated with the idea that I felt like it was really something that could be helpful and it was going nowhere. It
Mhm.
was just languishing there. And so instead, I
Yeah.
just started giving it away.
Mm.
And that was pretty fulfilling, actually. And during that time period, I was moving more towards coaching and getting my coaching certifications and learning. And so I started to sort of gravitate away from doing community management as I was beginning to take more and more one on one clients. So it sort of
Mhm.
naturally became less of a focus of turning it into a paid product. And the funny thing was, maybe 3 years later, after the blog articles that I originally wrote on masterminding had been out there in Google for 2 or 3 years, Google actually chose one of my articles to be the little snippet as the answer to should
Ooh,
I pay for a mastermind? And there was like my snippet
nice.
from this blog article.
Mhm. Awesome.
And people started signing up to get it. And
Nice.
by that point,
Nice. That's awesome.
I had like just made it part of that welcome sequence. Like I just had been giving it away. But it
Mhm.
was funny that 3 years later, I guess I probably could have started selling it, but kind of what is happening in your business moves on. And
Yeah.
in the end, I feel good about it and the good that it did in the world, but it did not earn any money.
Yeah, and probably cost some money because you did pay some people to do
Oh,
it, which,
exactly.
I mean, that happens,
Yeah.
that happens.
Yeah.
But I like that you started giving it away because I don't love to see when people create something and it doesn't sell and they pull it down and then they, like, tuck it away forever.
Mhm.
You're like, "Well, that's still valuable." Like, even just because, you didn't have an audience or, for whatever reason, like, it's still valuable. Like, I don't like whenever the products are kind of like hidden and never see the light of day. Like it makes me sad for the product.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you started using it and even giving it away. Like I think that that's, we have to pivot all the time in business.
Yeah.
Like, if this, then, oh, well, okay, well, that didn't go that way. Like, okay,
Yeah.
let's try something else. So, I think that that's
Yeah.
fantastic and awesome about the featured snippet.
Oh, yeah. It was kind of
Very
cool.
cool.
And, in retrospect, I look back now and I think it was just another stepping stone in,
Mhm.
I don't know about everyone listening, but I'm guessing that whatever you started doing, maybe you started freelancing or entrepreneurial journey, and what you're doing now probably looks different. And so when I look back on it,
Yeah.
I just think of it as like part of the evolution and,
Mhm.
part of the stepping stone and the experience that you get as you, grow and learn as a business owner. So it's, it doesn't, I do kind of see it as a fail as far as a revenue generating project, but I don't really, it doesn't feel like a fail overall, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you're probably glad that you did it and everything that
Yeah.
you learned from it. Like if you just hadn't done it, then yeah, how would you have gotten to where you are today?
Right.
Because you learned some things in the
Yeah.
process.
It was, it was the first
I
time
think
I
it's
had hired
important.
other freelancers even, which,
Yeah.
looking back, like, like we said, it cost me money and it didn't make me any money,
Mhm.
but it also was, that was part of growing and experiencing things
Mhm.
that I hadn't done before. And I think that's also one of those things, right?
Yeah, I think it's been valuable when I have worked with other service providers to kind of just take notes for my own self and my own services.
Right.
Like, I've worked with some people before and the communication maybe hasn't been that good or this or that or, whatever it is, the organization, something like, I take those notes back. It's like, okay, when I do this in my business, or just like tips and tricks, like
Right.
and you're exposed to more people. And I just think that that's valuable too. Like
Oh, yeah.
it's a big learning
Oh,
experience and it can be fun
everything.
if you look at it in a good way and not like, oh, terrible, terrible, terrible. Like,
Right. Yeah. And it was. They were both great to work with. And, so then I
yeah,
had
that's
that
awesome.
experience. It all builds on itself. you know?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, this is a journey we're on, right?
It is with all the ups and downs, but it definitely is.
Yeah. So what did the graphic designer do for you specifically? You mentioned that they did some designs for you. Like was it like a video course? Was it like PDFs? Like what actually was the course content?
Yeah. So it was a PDF specifically. So I had, a few different sections. She actually helped me. I would say she went beyond a little bit with just what a graphic designer would do and helped me think through how to
Mhm.
organize the download. And then we created, kind of some separate printable things. So like if you were inviting people to the mastermind, you could send this one-off sheet to them to explain like how the calls would go and structure. And then we also created some links to other things that I provided as resources. So she, helped me figure out how to organize that. She thought about writing a few things in there that I had not occurred to me before, like around copyrights and, the right of
Mhm.
use,
Yeah.
things like that. So, and then primarily she helped me format and design all of it so that, it was
Mhm.
pleasing to the eye.
Yes, yeah. It looked good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's so important whenever, a lot of people create their product alone, which is perfectly fine. But yeah, getting some kind of feedback
Hmm.
somewhere. You don't have to hire a designer, but showing it to somebody along the way because people are going to think of things that you don't.
Right.
I know this from many, many, many experiences where I have, created something or designed something or whatever and given it to somebody and they're specifically when I used to write software, I would write the whole thing and then give it to the user and they would get I'm like, I don't even know how you got to that part. Like, how did you even make that do that?" Because they use things in a different way. They think in a different
Yeah.
way. Their experiences, so having other people look at it, I think is really important in getting that feedback. So, the product is all the better for it.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, that was probably something I took away from that experience too, was just the fact that, I had come up with kind of all this raw text that needed to be formatted in a much more usable
Mhm,
way. And she saw things in that would not have even occurred to me just because of my different perspective on
mhm,
how it would be used. Particularly, we're often making, I think, products like these based on our own expertise. And seeing it through the eyes of a beginner or someone who knows much less or someone who's going to use this without your knowledge background is like super valuable.
Yes. Yeah, definitely the beginner thing, because whatever it is that you're sharing or you're teaching or anything, like you are here and people are back here somewhere.
Right.
So yeah, making it relevant. And, we got some windows recently and, the window people come in and they're using all their jargon and whatever. I'm like, I don't know any of this jargon. Like you have to make this so that I can understand it because I do not understand it at this point. So I think that, we have to kind of keep that in mind, keep our own experiences in mind so that, yeah, when we go out, we're like, yay, we're talking about things, like we have to make it easy for people to understand, or they won't buy it or they won't stay or, whatever it is.
Well, I've heard someone say before that like if you're, have a certain expertise, when you're talking about it, you're probably talking at a 6 or 7. And when you normally, just normally, and you think you're talking at like maybe a 2. So whatever it is, wherever it is you think you are, like you probably got to bring it down more. Not because people are dumb, but because they don't have the same context that you do.
Right. Yeah. They have other expertise that is just not, that's why they've come to you, so that you can help them because you're an expert. You can help them with this. So yeah, you have to start where they are for sure.
The values in making it simple.
Yes, exactly. We think we kind of disregard that. We're like, oh, too simple. We can't, no, that's actually what people need. And once they understand it, you can bring them along then kind of on your journey. And then you can teach more advanced things once you're sure that the foundation is there. I assume it's like teaching, like in a school. Like you need to know that they have a foundation before you can move on because they won't understand it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I once saw, oh gosh, I feel bad. I cannot remember his name right now. But he runs a camera blog and gosh, it's pretty big. I'm so sorry. I can't remember the name of him or his blog, but he was saying their most popular post, at least at the point I heard him speak a few years ago, was how to hold a camera properly. And he said when he wrote it, he thought, this is so dumb. No one's going to read this. And he said, but I realized later on that no one teaches you that because everyone assumes you know, and you kind of don't want to ask because you feel like you should know. And those are the questions people Google that we can help answer for them.
Exactly. Yeah. Assuming. That's totally right. Yeah. Don't assume. Just ask. You can just ask your audience. Yeah. Like, do you need help with this? Or what do you need help with? And I think getting that feedback and having an audience to ask, like we talked about, allows you to develop these products and, develop this content, specifically to what people actually need.
Yeah. That's actually now. So since then, when was this? Was this 2018 or 2019 when I worked on this project? And I have not even attempted to make another digital product since then. Maybe like a free opt-in or something, but it was like, okay, I'm moving on with my life from that, right?
No more.
Yeah. Yes. But now suddenly we have started, my husband and I, a YouTube channel on moving to France because we were getting so many questions about it. It's called Baguette Bound. I love the name. You're bound for the baguettes.
Yeah.
But now it's the first time I've started to think about developing a digital product again because I'm getting the same questions over and over and I'm starting to get tired of answering them. And so I'm realizing, okay, now there is an audience and they're asking specific questions and I know I can create something that would be helpful for them. And so it feels very different than before.
Yeah, I've heard similar stories where some people, think like, and myself included, like, this is what people need. People need this thing.
Right.
But it's not an important problem for them or not something that they're concerned about or not at that level or, any number of reasons. Or they just didn't hear your message because they're not in your orbit, like any number of reasons. But yes, I've also had some guests on the show who have shared that the same thing, like people are asking me these questions and I'm tired of answering these questions.
Yeah.
So here's your product. Like, this is what you ask for. I think that's the best way to do it because you can think of a product or think of an idea or ask your audience, hey, what might you want? But when those questions are coming in, especially the same question more than once, it's like prime for it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And like answering, and I mean, honestly, I say I'm getting tired of answering. I mean, the whole reason we started this was because I love it here and I want to share it with people. And so I actually am happy to answer questions, but it's hard to answer a complicated subject in a YouTube response to a comment, right?
yeah.
That's not the right space for this. And I think you said something earlier, which is sometimes you might have a good product, but people aren't aware of the problem. And so, like, I think most entrepreneurs may not necessarily even know that they're missing a mastermind and it would make their life so much better, right? So those are the kind of things you need tons of marketing for, because you've got to reach people, you've got to make them problem aware, you've got to convince them that this would help, even though you already know that it would. On the other hand, this making a product that people are already looking for, which, like in our case with this, you know, if you want to do a long stay travel in France, like, you know, stay for like slow travel for many months, or you even want to move here to freelance, like you are looking for information. And I'm realizing making a digital product that people are actually looking for, whew, that takes a whole
easier.
Oh, it's so much easier. Yes.
Yeah. And that awareness, like I feel like there's some kind of funnel or diagram or something about, like awareness of the problem and then, you know, potential solutions. But yeah, they're already aware and they're already searching. So they are already that much further along in the journey. And you're creating free content to attract them. Right. So people are watching the YouTube channel, and do you have a mailing list?
Oh, we're just starting. Yeah, we have a website, and people have just been signing up for the mailing list.
It comes, it comes. Yeah. You can't do everything at once. So like, you know, starting those little things, like you have to have the website to put the email on, and you need the email account before you can write the welcome sequence. I mean, I guess you don't have to, but the things come along. But yes, then so people will be finding you, the YouTube channel. I don't know if you're on social media or things like that, but like finding you and then asking their questions in there. And so have you thought about like what that product might look like what kind of format? Or
gosh, I just really started thinking about this. And I think the biggest question I have now is there's a lot of different questions to be answered. Like, for example, you know, with moving to France, people have questions about healthcare, and they have questions about visas, and they have questions about finding housing. Like every one of those is a huge topic. And so that's one thing I think I'm getting a little bogged down in just thinking about this is, how do I choose one? You know, there's part of you that always feels like, oh, but they need everything. But I know that's not always the best approach. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah. So like in terms of, so I guess if you're already getting the questions, are they like on the YouTube videos, or where are the questions coming from specifically?
Two places.
Like people are emailing you, or?
Yeah. So sometimes it will be in comments on the YouTube. And that's probably the most common, is specific questions in response to videos in the comments section of YouTube. But people also email me pretty often. And interestingly, the emails tend to be much more detailed, and usually they're much more specific to, at least at this point, like picking a village in France, picking a place to live, those kind of things, which, you know, is a big topic. But yes, email and comments and YouTube.
So maybe for the comments, like I wonder if you could maybe have like I'm not so much thinking specific product yet, but like if you could write a blog post in response to a specific question. Like that would help you create more content. You could add to it over time. And maybe with like as people ask more, you would then be able to pull from your own content bank. Right. So if people are asking, let's say about healthcare, they ask about like, you know, pregnancy or something like that. Or they ask about if I'm retired or something like that. You know, so they're asking all of these very specific but small questions about healthcare. And as you're addressing them, you're addressing here, putting on your blog, writing in a comment, whatever it is, writing an email. Then you can take all of that information after you've written it, and basically your ebook, your course, your whatever, your guide is already written for you. Instead of sitting down and be like, okay, I'm going to write a book about how to do healthcare in France.
Yeah.
Blank page, chapter 1. You know,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and then you're like, oh my God,
Right.
this
Yeah.
is going to take me forever.
Yeah.
Like you've already created most of it, and then you can fill in with other important information. So that's kind of like it's a longer game though, but I think easier for you than sitting down at a blank screen and writing all of that.
Yeah.
So does that make sense?
Oh, totally. And, I hadn't thought about the idea of almost like starting with a blog post about the general topic. And then as we get questions, sort of building on that.
Mhm.
I like that idea because sometimes it's intimidating even to write down to create a blog post because there are a million different things, right? People are like with,
Yes.
who qualifies
Yeah.
for fringe healthcare? Wait, what if I'm on
Yes.
Medicare and I'm retired in the US? And
Yes.
you're trying to
What
think
if?
of
What if?
all these things
Mhm.
and it's the same thing. So I like the idea of, just starting somewhere and then adding to that over time and building on it.
And even if it's not one blog post, it could be a category, like a category on your website of like healthcare. So here's where I answer this question and we talk about this a little bit. And then here's another post where I answer this question. And they're all tagged or categorized as healthcare.
Yeah.
So then when I'm ready to write my, comprehensive whatever, I have all of this information to pull from
Yeah.
already.
Yeah.
Like
That makes a
that
ton
might
of
be.
sense.
Now, in terms of the emails, because the emails are so specific, I mean, it it could be that, some of the same information applies. If they're asking a question that you think that other people would be able to benefit from the answer,
Mhm.
putting that in your newsletter, your blog post or whatever, I think would be valid. But if it's so very specific to their situation, I feel like this is maybe where like a office hours or a
Mhm.
one-on-one call or something where and again, it's not necessarily digital product specific, but it's a stepping stone, I think, to a product.
Mhm.
So if you had office hours, or I probably wouldn't call them office hours, probably something with wine, right? Like it would be something something wine related.
Yeah.
You're in France, there's a theme, where people come, every month and you're answering the questions or whatever. Or, like I will pay, here's my question, I'll pay you, whatever your fee is for you to answer my questions, and then you're spending, I don't know, half an hour answering my question, and I
Right.
pay you for that time.
Yeah.
Because it's more in depth, because it's more relevant to my experience. But I think that like sometimes people can, in a mastermind specifically also, people can benefit from hearing other people's questions and the answer to those questions.
Yes.
So some kind of group, maybe it's a YouTube live.
Yeah.
Maybe you're live for wine at 5 or something like that, and you're answering the questions that are coming along, or maybe you talk about a little topic and then you're taking questions relevant to that topic. I think building that body of content could be helpful. But yeah, you could also just do like a 101, France 101 for people who want to move here and answer very basic questions, kind of get
Yeah.
people started.
Yeah.
So like there's not one way. I guess it's like what feels good for you and what are you ready to do? What do you have the time to do and the bandwidth? All
Yeah.
those things.
Yeah. I actually, it's funny that we've talked a couple, about beginner content here and then like a general approach, because one thing that I have realized, we do offer one-on-one consults for Baguette Bound,
Oh, nice.
just because we were getting these specific questions that we felt like, oh, this was
Mhm.
really like a conversation. But in those conversations, as you start to actually talk to people, I realized most of them were not nearly as far along in planning their move or their
Mhm.
trip as I thought they would be. And they had a lot more questions that were, sort of broad and basic things. One couple actually we had a consult with, and they had been planning to move the very next month. And after our consult, they were like, I think we need a little more time. And I sort of felt bad, like we had discouraged them. And my husband, Jason, was like, no, we just saved them so much
Yeah.
stress of realizing
Mhm.
that they needed more space and time to make this happen. And that makes
Yeah.
me think about like kind of that basic product. Like, are you ready? Like, is there,
Yeah.
that could be really simple and really
Mhm.
helpful just for people to actually gain
Mhm.
where are they really in this process? Because you don't know what you
It
don't
sounds
know.
like a quiz.
It
It sounds like a
does.
quiz that
Yeah.
leads into a product that leads into like, okay, you're ready.
Yeah.
I don't have a product for you yet, but you're not ready. Here's how to get ready or
Yeah.
something like that. We were just talking about the healthcare, and kind of diving into each of the topics. But yeah, you're right. Like way back further, starting, you haven't started or you haven't planned all that well. So
Right.
like, here's how to start doing something.
Yeah.
And you can experiment with that. Like some people will, and I've seen this both ways. Some people will have a lead magnet that is free and then, something happens. And some people will have a product. And I've seen people take the product and make it a lead magnet, and people take the lead magnet and make it a product.
Oh,
So,
yeah. Okay.
you could start with something, and if it doesn't work as a lead magnet, you could try to make it a product or vice versa.
Yeah.
Sometimes people put value differently. So some
Yeah.
people think that like a lead magnet, maybe not as much value because it's free. It's probably not worth much. So if you put a price tag on it, people are like, oh, well, this is worth more.
Yeah.
But if maybe the lead magnet's not, or the product's not working, yeah, maybe you're reusing that content and making it free. So you have some options in there. I hate to like, again, like dissuade people, like, but there's a lot of ways you can do it. So just finding what works for you, I think is the best. What works for you and the audience, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think one thing that looking back now on the mastermind product is like, and when I do this, like if we create a product for Baguette Bound, I will actually spend less time on it before I get it out in the world and start to get feedback than I did on the other one. And not that I care less or want it to be less great, but another thing I realized is you can't actually know what's going to work until, you mentioned this earlier, you have users actually try and use it. So the longer I'm like keeping it and tinkering with it and trying to make it perfect,
Yeah.
that's probably not actually improving it as much as putting it out in the world, getting feedback, and then bringing it back and being able to tweak it a little bit. So I think I would actually create it and get it out there quicker than I did with the other one too.
Yeah. And some people call that like a beta, like, this is the guide is open for the first 20 people at, a lower rate or for your testimonial or, something like that, this is a version 1 and, we will be improving upon it. If you buy it now, you will get version 2 after we've,
That's a
beefed
great
it up
idea.
or whatever it is. Like there's a lot of ways I think that you can intentionally like let people know and intentionally create different versions over time. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, iterations. And even saying like, hey, we're thinking of creating a product. Well, what are your questions now? Like get featured in the document. Send your questions in, you're like, I think there's a lot of ways that you can kind of get that audience buy-in. Because I think another thing that people do is they hunker down and they go make the product and then they come back and they're like, here is the product. It is fully done. It's like a wedding cake. And you're like, wait, what? Like nobody knows what you've been doing for 6 months.
Right.
Like if you let people know ahead of time, I think that like it primes them for it. And getting people involved, getting people on the list and, that kind of thing. Like that, I think it just makes it better, for you and for them.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea. I mean, it's funny. This is kind of a straightforward thing, right? You're making things for people. Just ask them what they want, which I realize there's kind of a fine line with that because, sometimes you have a deeper understanding of what's actually needed to solve this problem. But, also there's like, I think in my case, I was thinking about that because there's multiple things that, we could focus on. And so maybe trying to figure out which one is really the most pressing concern for most people that are in this situation.
Yeah. And it's not just like solving a problem, but which problem are you solving?
Yeah. Which problem?
Are you solving the problem that people don't know how to get started? Are you solving the problem of like they need to plan the specifics or, and you could have many products over time. And, if you think about it again, like classes like a 101, a 201, a 202, like you can kind of build that. But you probably would start with the 101 first.
Right.
But also be able to iterate it. And I think I've heard this from some people before too, that, so they have the product and, it exists for a while and it's doing fine. And then they have a revision to make it easier, to make it more clear, to simplify it a little
Mm-hmm.
bit, to get people to that solution more quickly. We always think like, let's add a spreadsheet
Yeah.
and add a
Yeah.
template and add a bonus and add a
Yes.
session with me. You don't have to keep adding the stuff.
Yeah.
You just have to deliver something that is, of value to people, that is simple
Yeah.
and gets people to where they need to go,
Yeah.
both literally and figuratively.
Yes, that is really gold right there, because I do think the tendency is to want to give people more. But I don't know about you, but I
Hmm.
frequently am there's I would rather things be simplified and removed from my
Hmm.
life than added. That is
Yes.
much more
Yes. No
valuable.
more. Stop adding. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
thinking about doing that for people is, yeah, like you said, it's really the more valuable thing.
It's a hard like mindset shift for us to make because we also have some insecurities. Like, is this product alone
Is
valuable
it
enough? Will
enough?
people
Yes.
think, yeah,
Yeah.
enough? There's a lot of enough, but yeah, like, will people think that like if they pay whatever for it, they will have gotten their money's worth? And we tend to err on the side of like, oh, just give them more and they'll be happier. And yeah, I want less. Just give me less
Yes.
things to do,
Tell me
less
the important,
stuff on
like
my
for someone else to
list.
figure out the
Yes.
most important thing and tell
Mhm.
me that
Yes.
curation process. I heard someone say, like,
Yeah.
we live in the age of, like, it used to be that information was super valuable. I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, my parents bought a set of encyclopedias. It was the biggest
Mhm.
deal. We
Mhm.
did it instead of going on a vacation that year. My dad was so proud of these encyclopedias because information was
Yeah.
very valuable. And now we live in an age
Mhm.
where it's super easy to get information. What's hard is to curate that information. And if you can
Yeah,
do that
weed
for
out the
people,
nonsense.
right,
Mhm.
that is the
Yeah,
value.
definitely. Yeah. Yes, I'm gonna get you from here to here, and I'm actually going to get you there without, yeah, a lot of time investment and a lot of fluff. And, there are a lot of products out there that I think people are wary. So I think warming them up to that, with your YouTube videos and your other content that shows them like, okay, I trust her. I think that this product will be, what she says it's going to be, and I will find value in it. And I think that that's you're building that trust too with
Hmm.
people who don't know you, but they're
Right.
coming, they're searching the internet trying to find, the answers to their questions. And but that's cool though, because then people can find you. Like, I don't know. I just think it's a neat thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited. It's funny when we've had consults because this is the first time I've really done a lot of video. And
Mhm.
it's like people come to the call already feeling like they know you to some degree, but you have not had that
Yeah.
same interaction with them.
Yes.
So it's kind
Yes.
of an
Mhm.
interesting thing that's new for me, but very fun too.
Mhm.
Huh.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. And video I think can be really powerful. Audio
Yeah.
too. You can pull out audio. Like, I don't know, there's tons and tons of options. So I don't want to, yeah, don't want to overwhelm it. Yeah. So anything else you want to say about the first product, or, thoughts about this potential one? Or do you want to dive into your advice, 2 to 3 things that you recommend to someone who's creating their first product?
Yeah, I think I have like two thoughts to sort of finish out. One is, if you
Mhm.
create a product, even if you spend money on it and it doesn't go as you thought, it's okay. Don't be too discouraged, because you never
Mhm.
know like how that is going to move you along your path and what you're going to learn
Mhm.
from it and how you might use that later. And so sometimes it's multifaceted. And so don't let that one get you down. If it's not the revenue
Yeah.
booster that you imagined, sometimes there's other things.
Mhm.
I think the other thing is just the idea of market testing, having like a way to know that you're making something people are already looking for, and that
Mhm.
this product is going to help meet that need, and, testing it a little bit. I mean, that was the thing that I didn't have to start with. I was creating something
Mhm.
for people who were not problem aware, and I didn't even know where to find them. So,
Yeah.
um, y- so creating something people are already searching for and knowing where those people are that you're going to deliver that so they can find it. Gosh, I feel like that will put you miles ahead.
Yeah, it's just, yeah, where do you want to be on this journey? Like, yeah, do you want to be a little bit further ahead than you could be? Like, you can just create something and start, from no audience. But yeah, if your goal, like, what is your goal? If your goal
Yeah.
is, yeah, to make some money with it, or build your audience or whatever, like, yeah, you might want to be a little bit further along than otherwise. So yeah, not to discourage people from, if they just want to create something, because I feel like, I just created something too. I created a course about how to ask for testimonials in your service business,
Oh,
because so many people like don't want to ask for testimonials,
yeah.
but apparently not an important problem or not a problem that people were they weren't like, you know what, I need an answer to how to get
Yeah.
testimonials in my business. Not something
Yeah.
that was happening, but it led me here. So,
Yeah.
was it worth it? Yes. Did it make a lot of money? No. So,
Right. Yeah. But it's always, all those things are building something. You know what's
mhm,
interesting is it just occurred to me, many of us, before you're in the world of freelance or solopreneur, entrepreneur, however you define yourself, service business owner,
mhm,
when you have a job, there are things like that kind of go plunk, in your W-2 job. And we think of those as totally different than when we're out on our own and
mhm.
those same things happen. But it's really normal. Like, no matter if you're in a W-2 career or doing these things out on your own. And I hadn't thought about that this stuff has usually always happened.
Yeah, I think we take it much more personally when it
Oh,
happens
yeah.
here because
Right.
because our identity is tied up in
Yes.
like I'm not just a service provider. Like during the day, it's like my identity, if for better or
Yeah.
worse. There's probably some things to work on there, but yes, we're much more invested. And I think whenever we are, selling that product, it's not so much like, do you want this product? It's like, do you like me? Do you
Yeah. Oh,
like
yeah.
is
Totally.
tell me I'm valuable, tell me, so there's some
Right.
psychology in there, I think, a little bit.
Oh, of course. But just the idea that we can work for large corporations who have whole departments and big budgets, and things still
Mhm.
sometimes don't work. So the idea that
Yeah.
we would be different is like kind of funny that we take it as hard as we do,
Yeah.
because there's people who throw tons of resources at stuff like this. And, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So it's reasonable to think it's going to be exactly the same for us. And it's not because we're
Yeah.
doing anything crazy wrong.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, great point. Yay, awesome. So, can you tell us where we can find you online?
Yeah, so you can find me for coaching at rainawillick.com. I'm not super active on social media except for with Baguette Bound on YouTube. So if you're interested in France, go
Nice.
there. If you're
Mhm.
interested in creating productivity that feels good and you're happy with as a business owner, go to rainawillick.com.
Awesome. Yeah, and I'll put those links in the show notes. Yeah, and I can't wait to check out the YouTube channel too. So, thanks so much for being on
Uh,
today.
Thank you. This was great.
Hey, thanks for listening. I'd love to continue the conversation in your inbox. Email subscribe to hey@yfdp.show or sign up in the show notes to get bi-monthly emails about how you can create, launch, and market your first digital product. Can't wait to see you there.